horror style. You know what I mean? If y'all just tuned in, we here talking Tales from the Hood, my cinema, right? And it's crazy because a lot of people say that when horror movies, they go to die, they go to space, or they go to the hood, right? Check out the Leprechaun series, you know what I mean? They went down to the hood and it was a fun ride, I guess, you know what I mean? It was one of those whatever cheesy flicks, you know? But we're not here to talk Leprechaun, we're here to talk Tales from the Hood, right? So, okay, let's start off right from the beginning, all right? The poster, the cover art for everything, the DVD, the poster, whatever you want to call it, man. I don't know. You know, there was something iconic about that skull with the gold tooth for the original. And I thought that they already had a skull on this one right here, right? It was displayed on like a silver platter almost. And it had like grills on all over. And it just got me thinking, why didn't they just use the skull and just keep it going like that? Right? To the point they're even just using the skull by itself for their Twitter account. And I'm like, dog, there's your poster right there. You know what I mean? I thought they could have kept it consistent like that. Because like a lot of my friends, and even myself included, my thing was going by the poster alone, it just took away from the value of the movie. You know what I mean? It just made it look low budget as hell. Right? A friend of mine, you know, shout out to Black Orchid, she put it like this. She's like, why does it look bootleg? She's like, I know it's the same directors, the same writers, you know, the same production studio, all of that. Everybody coming back to return and shit like that. But how come it looks low budget? How come it looks like it's being put together by somebody else? And you know what? I agree. You know what I mean? So that poster need to get changed, you know. And I might be wrong, but for the original poster, it looked like they used an actual, like, you know, a practical effect. It wasn't just like, you know, computer generated or whatever. They actually had a skull with a gold tooth. So to me, it's like, yo, they could have kept it going. And if they really wanted to modify it a little bit more, they could have added a little bit of, like, you know, some face tattoos or whatever, just to show that, hey, it's in this day and age. You know what I mean? It took them 20 years to make this right here. You know what I mean? They were having some issues. You know, Rusty Cundiff, he was doing some other shit, you know what I mean, on the side. But he's been trying to do this movie, and I'm glad he put it up, you know? Not to say that the movie was free from issues. You know, it did have some issues. But, you know, we will talk about it right here. All right? So, the movie starts out with Keith David playing Mr. Sims. Okay? So, he's brought to this kind of like a CIA corporation. They coming out with their own version of like RoboCop pretty much. And it's an AI, but they're not going with AI. They call it RI, you know? So, real intelligence. So what happens is, this is a learning process, so it pretty much learns, right? So Keith David's character, Mr. Sims, he's sitting there telling the computer these stories in order for it to learn about humanity, for it to decipher who's evil and who's, you know, a bad guy pretty much, and what to do in terms of arresting and all that shit, right? So right when I saw it, I'm like, you know what? Two questions. Who is Mr. Sims? What relevance does he have to like the CIA for them to actually hire him to tell this robot stories? You know, in the first movie, you know, some gangsters, they went down to a mortician, right? And the whole story was that this mortician found the drugs that they left. You know, so he hit them up and he said he has it. And, you know, they made it. They went down to the mortuary service or whatever. And, you know, along the way, he ends up telling them the story. So that, to me, gelled more than this right here. To me, it's like, yo, who's this character? What relevance does he have? Why him? You know what I mean? Like, of all the people, how did they find him? Right? Not to say that Keith David didn't do a good job. You know, seeing him and how old he was and how old he looked, I'm like, goddamn, you know, we really need to get season 4 or whatever it happened to be of the Spawn animated show while he's still alive, you know, because that voice cannot be replaced. If they are going to be doing a Gargoyles live action movie, they need to capitalize on that shit and at least get Keith David to reprise his role as the voice of Goliath. That's what I'm saying, and that's that. You know what I mean? So, okay, that's the premise. So along the way, he's telling them stories. First of all, right off the bat, 4 stories, and that's what I like. You know what I mean? That Snoop Dogg Hood of Horrors movie only had 3 stories, and it just felt disjointed a little bit. It felt a little rushed. But this one had 4 stories, and I'm cool with that. That's what I like. You know what I mean? All right. So the first story, I got my notes right here. I wrote it all up. The first story is called Good Golly, right? So pretty much What it is there's a thing called Golly dolls. They pretty much look like little Sambo Cabbage Patch Kids. You know what I mean? But you know, this girl, they end up going, her and her best friend, right? One's black, one's white, right? They end up going to the Museum of Negro City, Negrosity, however you want to pronounce it. They end up going to that museum, and it's pretty much the museum of all the racist things that America had. You know what I mean? So they had like them Golly dolls, like I said, and you know, other shit like, you know what I mean? Some crazy shit that American history in terms of slavery and what they did. You know what I mean? Shit like that, right? So anybody that watched the original, they'll notice that the original doll from the first movie was there. I like that, you know. And when they showed the original doll, I'm like, how are they gonna do it? Are they gonna do the same thing they did in the original, where they're like, you know, the soul of, like, you know, Negro slaves, whatever, they end up passing on. They end up, because of how they passed on, how brutal their death was, they didn't really pass on, so they end up taking possession of that doll, right? I was like, are they gonna do that? But they pretty much turned this Golly doll into like that doll that they based that movie on. I think it was called. I think the doll was called Brandon, maybe. It's like a real life doll that's like so cursed that you pretty much can't even take photos of. You gotta ask him permission and shit like that. You know what I mean? I might be wrong, but you know, yeah, they based the Abigail movies. I think it was called. I might be wrong. I don't know. Whatever. They based their movies on it. You know, the movies that they did, Conjuring, the kind of like the spin-offs with that doll that come to life and shit like that. They based it on kind of like that, right? So it was all good, right? I'm not gonna say who dies because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, right? Well, characters die, and they did use practical effects, and I did like that. But some of the effects look cheesy as hell. Like at one point, the Golly doll pretty much becomes life-size, and it looks like a mascot outfit. And I was like, you know what, like, they started the movie with that story, and I'm like, this story should have been buried as like number 3. You know what I mean? Because if the first story starts out like this, I said to myself, we in trouble. You know what I mean? Because it legit looked like an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. It had that budget feel to it. You know what I mean? Feel like it was just a little bit of higher price budget in terms of Are You Afraid of the Dark? You know what I mean? But yeah, it was for comedy. They played it for laughs a little bit. They didn't take themselves too serious in that, you know. One of the characters, she ends up getting pregnant from the doll, and like pretty much she ends up giving birth, and her stomach kind of bursts open, and all these little dolls just start popping out of her stomach like a popcorn machine. They even added like the popcorn sound effect. You know what I mean? And I was like, God damn, what a way to start the movie. I'm like, man, it got to be a little more serious in tone and shit like that. So to me, it didn't really feel like, tone-wise, it didn't really remind me of the original, right? So that story get a pass. I'm like, whatever, you know what I mean? Next one. So the next one is called The Medium. So some hood dudes, they beating on some dude that turned his life around. He's an old school pimp that turned his life around and is now giving back to the community, right? He owns some like grocery stores and shit like that, and he's got $5 million that he wants to donate to the community in order to open up schools and shit like that in the hood, which is cool. The opening shot, you see the pimp dude, he's strapped to a chair and he dressed up, you know, suit, dress pants, all that shit, you know what I mean? And to me, when they teased the story and I saw it, I thought it was going to take place in like the 1930s. You know what I mean? I was like, you know what? That's an avenue of like hood life that really hasn't been, you know, explored other than that movie Hoodlum. So I was a little hyped up. I'm like, I want to see their take on this. But it turned out to be present day, and this dude turned his life around or whatever. You know what I mean? One thing leads to another. He ends up saying some shit to one of the hood dudes, and he ends up getting killed. He ends up beat to death. He dies. So there's a character. He's fronting like he's a medium that can speak to the dead. But for real, he's a fraud. You know what I mean? I wrote his name down. John Lloyd, right? John Lloyd. Pretty much based on that other dude that said that he can speak to the dead, right? His name is John something else too. You know what I mean? But yeah, so they decide, one of the dudes watching TV decides that, you know what? Let's go to him and have him speak to the pimp and see where he hid the $5 million and try to get it like that, right? So they break into the guy's house and they do like a seance kind of thing, and the dude actually does get possessed, right? He ends up getting possessed by every victim that them dudes kill. And one by one, he ends up telling us like, yo, why'd you have to go and do that to me and shit like that? You know what I mean? So just to let them know that, hey, this is legit, this is real, right? But then at the end, he ends up being possessed by the dude that they needed to get possessed by. And he ends up killing them one by one. Instead of telling them where it's at, he ends up killing them one by one. And them deaths were funny, right? Again, the movie kind of sort of fit the tone of the original, but not so much. You know what I mean? I thought if they went just a little bit more in terms of like the practical effect, and if the setting was a little bit more darker, because like it was brightly lit. You know, to me, I was like, if they fixed that, I think it would have fit in the universe of the original movie. You know, them deaths were nice, but some of them were kind of corny. You know what I mean? At one point, he ends up telling this girl, he's like, who's my favorite old school group? And she's like, the Spinners. And he's like, yeah. And like one of the characters, he ends up breaking his neck. He ends up spinning his neck full 360. You know, and I thought that shit was hilarious. Again, it reminded me of the original where it's like, you know, kind of playful or whatever. That story get a pass. That one was actually better than the Golly Doll story. You know what I mean? Which is crazy because that story, they could have like went deep in it. You know what I mean? They could have delved real deep in it, right? But they saved that for last. I guess they didn't want to hit us with too much emotionalism or whatever. You know what I mean? All right. Next story was called Date Night, right? Pretty much what it is them dudes, they internet predators or whatever. They posing as some Hollywood casting agents, and they preying on these up-and-coming actresses, up-and-coming models that want to break through into Hollywood. You know what I mean? They fronted like, hey, you know, we casting agents and all that shit, and they take them for a ride like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to go too in-depth with this story right here because it's one of my favorites, and it actually reminded me, here's a hint just to let you know what kind of vibe it's on. It actually reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn. That's all I'm going to say. This story was one of my favorites, and that's that. You know? Best for last, though, right? This story is called The Sacrifice. This story, through and through, fit the original movie. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? All the stories, this story right here should have been the base, should have been the guide. You know what I mean? All them other stories should have been based on this one right here in terms of like tone and message and all of this. You know what I mean? And to me, this story made the movie. This story took it all the way back, full 360. You know what I mean? So pretty much this story is about this black man. He's married to a white woman, and they live in Mississippi, right? And they do this thing where they're cutting away, you know what I mean, between present time Mississippi to 1950s Mississippi, right? They keep cutting away back and forth. So his wife, she's pregnant, but she has a history of miscarriages. So this time around, they really wanted to keep the baby and all this. And her husband happened to be a political advisor. He's a councilman to pretty much a Republican Party, where the dude that's running for office, running to be the mayor, I guess, of the city, he wants to shut down Democratic voting stations. But in actuality, he's shutting them down in the hood, right, in the ghettos. So pretty much nullifying black votes, right? So the husband, the black man, right, his mom, she telling him, she's like, how can you be on that side? How can you be for that? And he's like, you know what? You're looking at it as a color thing. Why does it got to be a color thing? Why can't it be a political thing? You know what I mean? We're not doing it. We're doing Democrats. We shutting them down. You know what I mean? So instantaneous to me, I'm like, you know what? This is Kanye West. This is Kanye's story. Kanye needs to watch this, right? And from now on, because of all them shenanigans and shit like that, we're not calling him Kanye anymore. Nah, you know, from now on this show, we calling him Kanye. So Kanye, y'all need to watch this movie and see this reflection piece right here. You know what I mean? So gradually, present day starts shifting into 1950s. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about, you know, architecture, whatever. You know, we talking about mindset. We talking about if the South did not evolve in terms of racial discrimination and all that. You know what I mean? So they going by, you know, racially what's going on. They're keeping that ideology and all this. So pretty much the wife, she ends up seeing spirits and seeing ghosts and shit like that, and her baby is dying, but nobody knows why. You know what I mean? In terms of like medical wise, they saw a doctor and she checked out. She's fine, but the baby's legit shrinking in her stomach, right? So the grandma, she decides to bring in a voodoo priest to see what's what and to, you know, assess things. You know what I mean? And so it turns out that she is seeing spirits, and the priest sees them too, right? So he's talking to a 15-year-old, right? And trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on, and why he's here, and why the baby is dying, right? They saying that in order for the baby to survive, that spirit of the 15-year-old needs to die, right? So pretty much what happens is the 15-year-old turned out to be Emmett Till, okay? Anybody that knows Emmett Till knows that this is some serious shit, right? And so what happens is the character of Emmett Till wants to speak to the husband, wants to speak to the black man and figure out why he's doing what he's doing, right? The husband is saying his excuse is, you died for my freedom, for me to make up my mind and say this is what it is, you know? But Emmett Till was like, nah, you know, I died because I wanted to give people the opportunity to vote, to give people a voice and shit like that, you know what I mean? And so it got really heavy fast, you know, because if you know the history of Mississippi, it's pretty much, you know what I mean, like between racial discrimination and all that, and they even pulled up all the heroes from Mississippi that died for the civil rights movement, you know what I mean? We talking Medgar Evers, you know what I mean? We talking about them 4 girls in like the 16th Street Baptist Church, you know what I mean? That bombing right there, they were represented too, you know what I mean? MLK, Martin Luther King was there too, you know what I mean? And they even brought up Emmett Till's mom, and that was kind of interesting to me. I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, what's up with her? And they were saying that because she allowed the people to view his body, and they took a picture of Emmett Till's body, she was pretty much haunted because everywhere she went, that picture was glorified. So there was no rest for her, kind of thing, you know what I mean? And it just got pretty heavy pretty fast. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of like tonal wise. This is what the story needed to be. This is what the whole entire movie needed to be. This is the kind of tone it needed to be in order to tie it into the original. And honestly speaking, if it wasn't for this story right here, this movie would be, you know what I mean? I'd be like, yo, 20 years, like for real, this is what it took. This is what you're giving us for 20 years. And it's crazy because I know Rusty Condiff and I know Darren Scott, Spike Lee, all them dudes, real smart, talented brothers, you know what I mean? And they have that humor. They have that intellectual intelligence kind of thing, you know what I mean? In order for you to, it's not just a horror movie for the sake of horror movie. You know what I mean? It's not just a horror movie for the sake of death and gore and all this. It's one of those horror movies that got messages behind it, right? And this story encapsulated that. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go too into spoilers, you know what I mean? But the theme of the story is sacrifice. The title is called Sacrifice. And they even had a line, I want to say it right here. It's respect the sacrifices given to you, right? So that's what's up right there. Y'all need to watch this movie just for the story alone, you know? And to me, that's my favorite story. This right here is my favorite story. And then Date Night happens to be number 2. And that's that, right? So the end, to tie it all together, because they brought it back, right? So the CIA government organization, they want to pull out that RoboCop. They pull him out. They call him the Robo Patriot, right? Now, the way the robot looked like, and I even wrote it down right here, all right? It looks like a cross between Marvel's Iron Patriot and Mystery Science Theater. You know what I mean? So I thought it was funny like that. You know what I mean? It's even got like some eyes, and every now and then it would blink, and I'm like, it's a robot. You know what I mean? Like, why you gotta get it to blink? I thought it would be a little more scarier and, you know, to tie with the horror movie theme if they didn't let the robot blink or whatever. But pretty much, it goes haywire, right? Because he told them the stories and shit like that, and it was a learning computer, right? So it starts scrolling through all the audience or whatever because they had a press conference, right? And Rusty Condiff is in the movie too. I'm not gonna say who he is, but I saw you. I seen you. You know what I mean? Crazy. You know, you can cut off his braids or whatever. It's all good though, you know? Try to spot him. But yeah, he's scrolling through the audience and he's talking about crime, you know what I mean? Low level, and he goes all the way up. And he just starts going berserk and start 86ing people. And I found it funny too. I was like, you know, even the lasers that he was shooting out was red, white, and blue. I thought that shit was funny. You know what I mean? So Yeah, to tie it all back like that. I'm not going to spoil the end, but anybody that watched the original knows what happens in the end, right? So that's that. But all in all, movie out of 4 stars, because I don't do 5, right? I like even numbers. Out of 4 stars, I'm gonna give it 2.5. You know what I mean? First of all, I love this series, and I hope we can get a proper 3rd installment, right? And I just hope that it ties together, tonal wise, theme wise, thematic, all of that shit to the first movie. You know what I mean? I thought some of the movie was brightly lit. I thought it should be a little bit more darker just to fit the whole aesthetic. You know what I mean? Because like thinking about even the first movie, there was hardly any like brightly lit scenes. You know what I mean? I remember there was some classroom scenes here and there, but all in all, like even yeah, all in all, it was like dimly lit. You know what I mean? It was dark. It fit the horror movie franchise. It fit the horror movie aesthetic. All of that shit. You know what I mean? So 2.5. But you gotta watch it for that story. Sacrifice. Everybody. Even when I was looking online, everybody was, you know, talking about that story or whatever. You know. And it's crazy because they did Get Out, and I was like, you know what? Are they gonna do something similar? You know, I felt 2 things when I was thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? Number one, it could hurt the movie because Get Out is a strong ass movie, right? So this would hurt it in terms of like, you know, if they do the story wrong or if they copy it. You know, people gonna say they copied them or whatever, or they could do it horribly. You know, so I thought it could hurt the movie like that. You know, but fans of the original, if y'all expecting the original movie, you know, I'm gonna say maybe 2 stories out of 4. Right, the first 2 stories were kind of comedic, low budget. Like I said, man, Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark at certain points, right? And I thought that, you know, it could be done better. It should have been done better, especially with 20 years in the making. I thought, you know what I mean, like it could have been a little better like that, you know. But is it a movie that needs to be watched? Yes. Smash or grab. We do this thing called smash or grab. You know, smash the movie, it's whack. Grab the movie, it's cool. I'd say grab it. You know what I mean? Watch it. Let me know what y'all think, though. I'm curious to hear what y'all think. You know what I mean? In the comment section below, do it up on the YouTube or the Facebook. And once again, I got to say it, man. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what I mean? Y'all can share the video, too. Anybody that watched the movie, the original, that didn't know that this, because this is a sleeper hit right here. You know what I mean? Just came out of nowhere, right? Anybody that doesn't know that they have a second movie out, share the video. Let them know what's happening, what's popping. I tried to keep it with no spoilers as much as possible. I didn't say who dies. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Right? But once again, all in all, it's a grab for me. 2.5 stars out of 4. It could have been a solid 3 if all the stories were, you know, originally like I said, the original. You know what I mean? They tied with the theme and the tone and all this shit. You know what I mean? Some of the stories did have a message, kind of like the original. Others, you know what I mean? Like the Golly's doll story or whatever. I was like, you know, like what's the message here? You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? But all in all, it's a good movie. Strong sequel? Not really. Curious to see what they're going to do for number 3. Hopefully they do come out with number 3. And yeah, we'll see what's what. But for now, we're going to kick more tunes. We're going to take it back to the tunes. We got Big Prodigy with Old New on the Home Invasion Show. Check it out. The track is hot. Y'all already know what it is. You rocking with Livin Large. And that's that. Tales from the Hood too. Get it. And let me know what y'all think. Hit me up at Livin Large 187. Once again, that's at LIVIN Large 187 on the Twitter. Y'all can find me, get the conversation going, and let me know what's going on, what's happening, and all of that. That was my take on Tales from the Hood. Again, one of my favorite movies. I even have the poster all boarded up, plaqued up, right up on my wall. You know what I mean? And I kind of wish that this movie right here, poster, looked the same way, because I would have done the same with that. You know what I mean? But hey, that's what's up. Once again, let me know what y'all think. Watch the movie. You know, Halloween's just around the corner. We got like, what, 2 weeks left to Halloween? Before Halloween comes. So watch that movie. Let me know what y'all think. Comment section below, either on the Facebook or the YouTube. And let me know what y'all thinking like that. You know what I mean? Like, comment, subscribe. You rockin' with Livin Large. It's the Home Invasion Show. We're keeping it going like that. And God bless. Take care of yourselves and each other like Jerry Springer said, y'all.